Liar Village, Honest Village. It was during a live broadcast of the national parliament. A politician lied. I bear no responsibility. At that moment, lightning struck him from above. If you lie, lightning will strike you. What began as a seemingly absurd form of punishment ended up reshaping the entire world. It was 3 years ago that the world government concluded, lies are the root of all conflict and corruption. That statement triggered the launch of a global surveillance network capable of detecting lies and delivering instant punishment, commonly known as lightning judgment. This system detects anyone who tells a lie, whether spoken, written, or acted, and responds instantly. It answers with a single, merciless act, lightning. But this lightning was no natural force. It was artificially generated through an ultra-dense energy convergence beam, a divine judgment from above. It could pierce any material, render all forms of protection meaningless, and strike from overhead with absolute precision. There was no escape. Those struck by lightning would collapse on the spot and depart from this world. The first victim was that very politician from the broadcast. Everyone watching on TV was left speechless. Once the system was enforced, lies vanished from the world. Fraud disappeared. False accusations vanished. Secret dealings ceased. Elections, trials, interrogations, even job interviews, all became transparent. Politics was purified, and diplomacy became honest. Military buildups and false reports were no longer tolerated, and international dialogue reached unprecedented levels of sincerity. Even romantic relationships changed. Only genuine feelings could be conveyed. Adultery, too, faded away. Culture shifted as well. During a business golf outing, a senior executive's ball hit a tree and sank into a pond. Yet the host exclaimed, "Nice shot." The next moment, he collapsed from his cart onto the grass. No flattery, no polite lies were tolerated. All falsehoods were punished equally by lightning. People came to realize how deeply the act of being considerate was intertwined with lying. Cultural facades quietly faded. Eventually, everyone stopped expending effort on meaningless social niceties. People came to believe that this was a positive change. They chuckled only at one thing. They could no longer play poker. But even that was quietly accepted as a small price for peace and happiness. However, one day, an anomaly was discovered in a small village nestled on a tropical island at the eastern edge of the world. People there could lie, and yet no lightning struck. The administrative body overseeing the island reported the anomaly. The world government took it seriously. The lightning judgment system was not supposed to have any blind spots. Something was clearly broken. The person assigned to the investigation was Kumi Inoue, a young analyst from the government intelligence agency. She had been involved in the design of the lightning judgment system, was fluent in multiple local languages, and had exceptional cultural sensitivity. She was the ideal candidate. There's no way a lie could go undetected. Inoue couldn't ignore this inconsistency. As a scientist, it was a contradiction she had to see for herself. She boarded a government vessel headed to a southern port, then took a hand-rowed ferry that only departed once a week. An elderly boatman greeted her with a grin the moment he saw her face. "Welcome to the strangest island. It's a rather interesting place." Inoue nodded silently. The ferry passed through murky waters and began winding its way upriver through dense tropical jungle. Eventually, through a gap in the trees, a small dock came into view. The boatman silently pulled the ferry closer. Inoue stood up, shouldered her luggage, and stepped off onto the dock. After walking along a narrow jungle path for a while, a quiet village gradually appeared through an opening in the thick vegetation. It was an eerie presence, something that seemed to tear through the silence the jungle had devoured. Its name was Jalan Ritu Village. A heavy mist blanketed the village. Fine rain fell continuously, droplets plopping from the tips of leaves. The ground was muddy, and the air was damp and oppressive. A man holding a spear greeted her. He wore traditional attire layered with leaves, and his hair was clearly an ill-fitting wig. Though his face smiled, an unsettling aura clung to him. He began to speak in an overly theatrical tone. "Welcome, welcome. Truly, we are delighted to have you here." But behind his words, a sense of forced, unnatural expression bled through his performance. Inoue nodded, feeling a faint tension run down her spine. Trying to shake off the suffocating unease, she immediately tested the man. "That's a wig, isn't it?" she asked. The man smiled cheerfully and replied, "Absolutely not. I've had this hair since the day I was born." "This is bad." He clearly just lied. "Lightning will strike." Inoue instinctively braced herself. Her muscles tensed, and her heart began to race. But nothing happened. The sky remained silent, and only the sound of rain echoed around her. Why? That was a blatant lie. So why? Inoue quickly pulled out her device and began operating it. The brainwave detection clearly indicated a lie. And yet, despite that, the system skipped the punishment. The next person she encountered was an old woman, drenched in rain, who slowly laughed. Such beautiful weather today, isn't it? Ahahaha. Then a young boy suddenly darted out from behind her. My dad can fart so hard he flies through the air. I'm still practicing though. Another young man said, yesterday, I drank the entire Pacific Ocean. I burped 1 billion times afterward. Everyone was laughing. Their lips were unnaturally stretched into smiles, their expressions cheerful. But their eyes drifted elsewhere, as if seeing another world. The laughter echoed, disconnected from their faces. As dusk fell, Inoue was invited to the village chief's house for dinner. The chief seemed unusually excited. Tonight, we celebrate your arrival. Please enjoy a feast like nothing you've ever tasted before. Thank you, Inoue replied awkwardly, bowing her head. But what lay on the plate was a black lump that resembled some kind of organ. It was soaked in a thick liquid and shimmered with an ominous gloss. The moment she took a bite, Inoue's face tensed. This is, honestly, the taste is delicious, right? The village chief asked with an exaggerated smile that moved only his mouth. That bizarre expression sent a chill down Inoue's spine. Before nightfall, Inoue managed to finish setting up her tent. Once inside, she finally took a breath and opened her laptop to check the Lightning Judgment System's records. The village's spatial coordinates were correct. Multiple waveforms indicating lies had clearly been detected. And yet, why weren't they being processed as lies? That night, Inoue was enveloped by an eerie discomfort and couldn't sleep. The sound of insects, the falling rain, and the faint impression that someone was laughing in the distance. A creepy, artificial kind of laughter. By dawn, having not slept a wink, Inoue began her investigation of the village. Just after noon, while inspecting the far end of the village, amid the tropical trees, she found a moss-covered stone tablet inside a small shrine. It was covered in densely carved ancient writing. Inoue immediately requested resources on the local ancient language from the world government. She then locked herself in her tent and began deciphering. After hours of staring at the inscriptions, she finally completed the translation by evening. And the moment she read it, her entire body froze. To speak lies is a virtue and justice. For mankind is, by nature, deceitful. And hiding that nature is the true dishonesty. Those who speak truth are the real liars and shall be judged by the gods. On the reverse side, it continued. To possess a name is to possess existence. If the name changes, the soul changes with it. Those with pride live alongside their name of pride, free from judgment. But should they abandon that name and be given a false one, the gods shall never forgive. A name? Inoue's blood ran cold. The name of the village was Jalan Ritu. Upon investigation, she learned that in the ancient language, it meant pride of lies. In other words, when villagers lie, they are being honest to the name of the village. Perhaps that's why lightning doesn't strike. With trembling hands, Inoue compiled her report and submitted it to her superiors. In it, she included a single speculative line. If the village's name were changed to something that means honest, perhaps the results would be different. It was only a hypothesis, nothing more. However, the world government moved faster than she imagined. That very night, the island's local authorities acted in secret. The village's name was changed to Jalan Jahan, an ancient term meaning pride of honesty. That night, Inoue was quietly enjoying a book with a cup of instant coffee she'd brought along. A jungle night. Rain provided the background music to a fleeting moment of peace. Then, it happened. The sky suddenly lit up with an eerie glow, followed immediately by a deafening thunderclap. Zoodoon! What the? Startled, Inoue ran outside and looked around. And then, she was speechless. Every villager had been struck by lightning. Inoue quickly checked her device. An urgent message had arrived from the government. Name change complete. Jalan Ritu Village. Jalan Jahan Village. What? That was just a preliminary report. Inoue stood frozen in disbelief at the edge of the village. The lightning spared no one, whether inside buildings or under trees. It struck the villagers directly and without mercy. The chief, the old woman, the children. Every last one collapsed where they stood. No. Inoue covered her mouth, falling to her knees. Tears mixed with the tropical rain as they ran down her cheeks. Lightning had passed judgment on lies, without hesitation. If they were really going to change the name of the village, they should have explained it to the villagers first and gained their understanding. But the government had moved far too quickly. Only the sound of falling rain echoed through the village. But that silence didn't last long. Zoodoom! Another thunderclap. This time, the lightning struck the forest at the edge of the village. What? Inoue stumbled forward, running toward the direction of the strike. The bolt had hit the village cemetery. This is the graveyard? But why? Why here? A cold sweat trickled down Inoue's back. Staring in disbelief at the rugged stone pillars drenched in rain, she froze. Then, the ground beneath the rainfall began to tremble ever so slightly. What is happening? Suddenly, one of the stone pillars toppled with a heavy thud, and the ground began to bulge upward. One after another, mounds of dirt rose all around. No way! Inoue was struck speechless. From within the mud, a slimy arm emerged, followed by a face. The mud-covered face had glowing blue eyes and let out a low groan. Ooh! There was no doubt, these were the former residents of the village. Lightning had reached into the past? Could it be that changing the village's name had altered the records themselves, causing even their lies to be judged now? But why are they coming back to life? Inoue shouted as she backed away. From all directions, muddy arms and faces crawled out of the earth, one by one. Then, in the next moment, they all began running toward Inoue at once. No! Inoue screamed and ran on reflex. Her heart pounded in her ears, and the muddy ground pulled at her every step. Breath ragged, she pulled out her device with trembling fingers and opened the emergency channel. And she cried out, "Change it back to Liar Village. Hurry!" At that moment, her device responded. Name change complete. Jalan Jahan Village. Jalan Ritu Village. Whoa, that was fast. As Inoue turned around, the undead villagers froze in place, and began to collapse one after another. I'm safe. Inoue exhaled deeply in relief. But that moment of peace didn't last. As she looked back toward the village, the villagers who had been struck down by lightning earlier, the current residents, were now getting back up. Their bodies were caked in mud, their faces blank and lifeless, and they staggered on unsteady feet. No way. Why? Inoue's knees trembled in fear. And then, a terrifying hypothesis flashed through her mind. Could it be that changing the name back to Pride of Lies somehow erased the first lightning strike? No, that's impossible, isn't it? Before she could finish thinking, the now revived villagers turned toward her. And then, groaning, they began to run. Oh! No! Inoue bolted at full speed once again. She yanked out her device and screamed into the emergency channel. Change it back to Honest Village. One more time. Hurry! The device immediately responded. Name change complete. Jalan Ritu Village. Jalan Jahan Village. In that instant, Zoodoom! Lightning rained down once more. The current residents were struck and fell again, one after another. Inoue stared at the scene, tears welling in her eyes. Ha, ha, ha. But then, behind her, she heard footsteps stomping through the mud. She turned, and what she saw was the former residents once again. Kya! Sobbing, Inoue stumbled and screamed. Change the name to something like a village that's neither honest nor a liar. The device immediately responded. Name change complete. Jalan Jahan Village. Jalan Ritu Jahan Jalan Jahan Village. This should be okay now, right? Inoue turned around with tears in her eyes. But then, this time, both the former and current residents were charging at her together. Gyar! She thrashed through the midnight jungle, slipping through mud, branches cutting her cheeks, running for her life without end. Eventually, she stumbled upon a small cave and dove inside. Ha, ha, ha. If I stay here, maybe. She leaned against the wall, desperately trying to muffle her breathing. Was it 30 minutes? An hour? Time had become a blur. It has to be safe now, right? Inoue cautiously peeked out from the cave's entrance. But at that moment, her eyes met those of the villagers standing right in front of her. No, I can't take this anymore. Countless hands reached for her. It was over. Inoue looked to the sky and screamed. Please, strike me down with lightning. The sky flashed brilliantly. Zoodoom! A bolt of lightning pierced the cave and struck Inoue dead center. The next morning, the island was wrapped in a clear, blue sky, for the first time in a long while. After losing contact with Inoue, the world government dispatched an investigative team to the island. Across the village, they found the corpses of its residents. And deep in the forest, inside the cave, they found Inoue as well. She looked peaceful, as if merely asleep. Inoue escaped the village, at the cost of her own life. But one question remained. Inoue, who had helped design the lightning judgment system, understood better than anyone. Lightning could only be triggered by lies. So what did she truly mean with her final words? Strike me down with lightning. Was this truly the ending she wanted? The more we think about it, the deeper the mystery becomes. And the only person who knew the answer, Kumi Inoue, is no longer in this world. From that day on, the island became uninhabited. No lies, no honesty, only silence remained, spreading endlessly with the thick mist. In the corner of the cave, a forgotten device continues to emit its signal relentlessly. New village name reflected in reality.